Welcome. I'll call to order this June the 11th meeting of the Fort Mill Town Council. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to our meetings, we try to be as efficient as possible, but it's a fairly long agenda this evening. If you would, please silence your cell phones. And we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilman Helms will do our invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for another beautiful day you've given us. We thank you for many blessings of life. We thank you for everything you do for us. We pray that you give us wisdom to conduct the town's business tonight. We give you the praise and the honor and glory for it all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Council, if you'd remain standing. I know you noticed that we're all wearing interesting color tonight, but it's to honor someone that's near and dear to council and all those that have been affected by the insidious disease of cancer. So we all would like prayers and thoughts for anyone that suffers with this, and we're just doing it to stand in unity with our teammate. Thanks. Council members, you have received the minutes of the May 14th, May 21st, and June 4th meetings with Town Council. Do we have any changes, deletions? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Have a motion to accept the minutes and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor please say aye. Aye. All those opposed nay. It's a unanimous decision. Public comment. Pursuant to Section 246 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill, any resident may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel. Those who wish to speak must sign the public comment sheet prior to the start of the meeting. Do we have any? None? Thank you. Public hearing item number 1, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill so as to repeal the ordinance number 2005-05. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open public hearing item number 1.
Okay. We're looking for any, everyone in favor of openings, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Any public comment? Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, we will close that public hearing. Public hearing item number 2, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for the Town of Fort Mill, Article 1, in general, Section 5A, establishment of districts, so as to add a new zoning district to be called the TCP, Transportation Corridor Preservation Overlay District, and Article 2, requirements by districts, so as to add a new section to be called Section 28 TCP, Transportation Corridor Preservation Overlay District, to invoke the pending ordinance doctrine, to provide for a public hearing, and to provide for other matters relating thereto. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to public hearing item number 2.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of opening, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Do we have any questions or comments on public hearing item number 2? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we will close public hearing item number 2. We'll begin the presentations for the evening. Presentation number 1, Rock Hill, York County Convention and Visitor Center Bureau presentation, Billy Dunlap. Welcome, Billy.
Thank you very much. Mayor and Council, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate your service to the town of Fort Mill. I also appreciate the pink shirts. I don't think there's anyone in this room who hasn't been touched by cancer at some point in time. What I'm here to do today is to basically just give you an update on Visit York County, which is also known as the Rock Hill York County Convention and Visitors Bureau, which has the longest title of any organization in York County. So we now refer to ourselves as Visit York County. That is a simpler process, and it actually says what we do. One thing that I found out when I first came here, when I started to introduce myself, by the time I got to county in that long name, everybody had already tuned out. So we shortened that a little bit. Tell you a little bit about me. I've been on the job for a little over 5 months. I am a native of York County. I spent the first 22 years of my life in Rock Hill, was a 1987 graduate of Rock Hill High School. Fort Mill had a little bit more than one traffic light when I left, but it was not much more than that.
Made up for it now, haven't we?
And you have made up for it in the 25 years that I've been gone. But left here, spent 25 years in the upstate just outside of Greenville, and was excited to return home in January. Tell you a little bit about the mission of Visit York County is to create a thriving travel and tourism economy in York County through group tours, meetings and conventions, sports tourism, and leisure travel. And I can tell you, tourism in York County is big business. Report card for 2016-2017, which is our last reporting year. We are on a July 1 fiscal year, so we are closing up 2017-2018. But last year, the Visit York County brought in 52 events to York County. $16.3 million in economic impact, a little bit over 99,000 room nights, a little bit over 79,000 in event attendance. We distributed 40,000 brochures. We had 48 stories published. Now, those are stories that when we go out to meet with local, regional, and national media, which we do periodically throughout the year, we are pitching stories about York County because we want travel writers to write about York County because that draws leisure travel to the area. So, for instance, in Fort Mill, we're talking about the Greenway. We're talking about Pucker Butt Pepper Company. Speaking of Pucker Butt Pepper Company, we have pitched that to Forbes magazine and the Wall Street Journal in the last 60 days. So we are excited about what may come from that. But that's all about tourism. When you talk about the world's hottest pepper, that brings people to town. So we are looking forward to that. Our website had over 118,000 unique visitors last year. Now, this coming year, new things that we're bringing to York County. First is a mobile visitor center. Now, in the past, we were at the Baxter Hood Center, just adjacent to York Technical College, right next door. Well, that building has been repurposed into a continuing education center. So we had to physically move from the Baxter Hood Center. But prior to moving, we expected visitors to York County to come to us, and that's how we service them. That's not the most efficient way to service visitors. When you service visitors, you got to go to where the visitors are. So we're in the process now of creating a mobile visitor center. Think food truck, but not giving out tacos, giving out brochures and information about York County. It is a cargo van, has 2 pop-up windows. It will be completely wrapped in Visit York County, highlighting 7 different areas in York County. It will be able to go to any event that we have in York County. So think Strawberry Festival, think Summerfest, think Come See Me, think a high school Friday night football game, think about a concert in downtown. Any event that brings visitors, we want to have that mobile visitor center at that event. Swimming events, soccer, basketball, whatever it may be, because we want to go to the visitors to be able to service them at the spot. So if we're at Fort Mill High School for an AAU basketball tournament, we've got 150 teams coming in that weekend, we want to have that mobile visitor center there. We want to be able to give out coupons about local restaurants. We want to be able to get them to download our app, which has all of your lodging, all of your food, all of your attractions within a proximity. You can get on the app, get all of that information. So that is going to be the purpose of the mobile visitor center. So on a given Saturday at the Hood Center, we might see 2 or 3 visitors come in to get information, because if you think about the Baxter Hood Center, it's kind of off the beaten path. So now, instead of servicing 2 or 3 visitors on a given Saturday, we're expecting to possibly service 400 to 500 on a given Saturday. So that mobile visitor center is going to make a significant impact for us. A new visitor center we have relocated. We are in downtown Rock Hill, 130 East Main Street, directly across the street from the Children's Museum. We looked at 2 areas when we looked at relocating. Well, actually, I should say 3. We looked at the I-77 corridor, which was really too expensive for us. We looked at downtown Fort Mill, and we looked at downtown Rock Hill. The location we found in downtown Rock Hill met our needs, not only visibility-wise, but more importantly, budget-wise. Now, this coming year, we're bringing 18 new events to York County. Those are 18 events over and above the events that we brought last year. 10 of those events are coming to Fort Mill. Another thing that's new for 18-19 is a focus on agritourism. That is an area that is going to continue to grow in York County. It's already, if you look at the Ag and Art Tour that finished yesterday, 22 farms, that's only going to continue to grow. So we are focusing on agritourism to work with those farmers to help them supplement their business through agritourism or agritainment, whichever one they are in the business to do. Now, events in Fort Mill this past year, Ag and Art Tour we talked about had 2 Fort Mill locations. Last year, we don't have numbers from this year, but last year over 55,000 visitors came to York County. We worked along with the Ag and Art Tour committee to bring as much media exposure as possible. There were 9 media outlets that covered that event last year talking about those local farms. Now, other events in Fort Mill last year, and I should say this year, 2017, 2018, we brought 6 AAU basketball events to York County, to Fort Mill, featuring 275 teams from 6 states. We had one weekend about 2 months ago where Phenom Hoops brought a tournament in. They brought in 150 teams. We played at 4 different schools, Fort Mill and Nation Forward being 2 of the 4. We brought in 5 of the top 100 players in the country were in Fort Mill that weekend. 5 of the top 100 high school basketball players in the country. It was an open recruiting period, so when you bring 5 of the top 100 basketball players, you also bring a coach from every premier basketball program in the country coming to recruit those players that weekend. So we were putting those teams, the Charlotte Observer covered it every day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was a huge event for York County that we really didn't, we knew the event was coming, but until the Monday prior, we didn't know the teams that were coming. Then we found out the players that were coming, and all of a sudden it became a national event within 5 days. So those are the kinds of events that we're bringing. Rivals Football Combine was here last month. That is a nationally recognized football recruiting combine. Rivals is the authority on football recruiting in the country. They held a combine at Nation Forward High School. USA Ultimate Frisbee Championships were held in Fort Mill last year. Visit York County generated $523,000 in direct customer spending from events that were recruited, promoted, and brought to Fort Mill by Visit York County. That's $523,000 that were spent in the restaurants, in the stores, in the attractions, and in the hotels that make up the Fort Mill area. Now, events that we've got coming this year, 2018, 2019. We have 2 McDavid All-American events. Now, McDavid is a national sporting goods, sporting equipment manufacturer. They produce all the padding that you see the players wear. McDavid, we developed a relationship with them about 6 months ago. We brought 1 event this past year to Nation Forward. We've got 2 events coming this coming year. We've got 11 AAU basketball tournaments coming to Fort Mill this coming year. We've got the Rivals Football Combine coming back. We also have the VTO Football Combine. One thing York County is becoming, you know, they talk about Rock Hill being Football City USA. York County is becoming Football Camp USA. We host some of the largest, we actually host the largest football camp in the country in York County, the Football University camp that is held at South Point High School in July. But VTO is coming this year. The South Carolina Humanities Festival is coming in 2019. That will be something that will focus on the historical aspects of Fort Mill. Also, one thing that we are really excited about it, one thing when I came here, one of my emphasis was to produce more events that we took the lead on, that we develop and we run. Battle at the Rock is, and somebody says, well, how are you going to do Battle at the Rock in Fort Mill? Well, Battle at the Rock is, the basketball is the Rock, is not Rock Hill. But Battle at the Rock Basketball Showcase is going to be at Nation Ford High School November 30th and December 1st, 2018. It is going to be a 12-team basketball showcase, and I can tell you we have 7 of the top high school programs in the country coming to this event. Not 7 of the top ones in South Carolina, 7 of the top programs in the country coming to this event. Teams that, and we're not ready to say who the teams are, but they are contracted and they are coming. And if anyone in the room follows high school basketball, if I said the names, you would be shocked at who's coming to this event. This event will create national exposure along the lines of ESPN and things like that. This will be the kind of exposure that Battle at the Rock will bring to Fort Mill in November of this year.
Will those be at the high school gymnasiums?
Yes, that entire event will be at Nation Ford.
Okay.
Now, leisure travel in Fort Mill. For us, you know, everybody gets hung up on sports tourism and events and things like that. For us, leisure travel is 50% of our business. That's promoting attractions in York County that people want to come to just for leisure travel. Things like Carowinds, the Greenway, Narrowway, things like that. Now, this past year, estimated direct spending impact of $2.3 million just in Fort Mill for leisure travel for over 350 non-sporting event groups with attendance of over 12,000 people. Those are groups that we recruited, that we brought to this area that had a direct spending impact of $2.3 million this past year, 350 non-sporting event groups. Now, I can tell you, we talked about FBU, Football University, which brings in 1,500 high school athletes, the top high school players in the country. They come to South Point for a week. We met with Carowinds last week. During that week, last week, and now this is an event at South Point, Carowinds sold over 700 passes just to FBU participants just last year. 700 passes to FBU participants only, because we put them in one spot. They have the opportunity to buy them right there. So that is an economic impact in this area from an event that's held in Rock Hill. Now, services that we currently offer in Fort Mill, we have a kiosk downtown that promotes leisure travel. Fort Mill has visibility in 15 of our brochures that's distributed to 40,000 visitors annually. We have a tear-off map of Fort Mill that's distributed at our visitor center as well as all the area hotels. And then we also promote the events, attractions, and restaurants in Fort Mill on social media, Visit York County app, and visityorkcounty.com.
May I ask a question? Where's
Yes.
the kiosk downtown?
It's right almost directly across the street.
Yeah, it's over beside a hobo.
If you ran out
Beside
Confederate,
okay,
you'd almost be
yeah.
looking directly
Okay,
at it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes.
Yes, I have. Thank you.
And I want to ask a question too. Our friend Steve, have you found your business on any of these?
I'm not familiar with it, so I'd have to check.
He's the owner and operator of the brewery downtown,
Okay.
or More Artiste. It's a very popular spot downtown. So our downtown has seen a very nice uptick
Very much
in
so. We
interest.
actually looked to come here, we couldn't find space, which is a good problem. Which is a very good problem. All right, so why am I here? One, I wanted to give you an update on what we're doing in Fort Mill. I wanted to thank you for allowing Visit York County to be your organization to promote tourism in Fort Mill through accommodations tax funding. I also want to talk about our funding for Visit York County, where it comes from, where it's generated, municipal funding, and our goal, our organization goal for municipal funding. Now, here is our funding for 2017-2018. You see York County, which is the largest portion of that, we get hospitality tax funding and accommodations tax funding from York County. That relates to 87% of our funding. Now, the other blue, the darker blue is grants, that's 5% of our funding. Yellow is Rock Hill, that's 7% of our funding. And the little blue sliver in the middle is Fort Mill, that's currently 1% of our funding. That is the makeup of our funding for this past year, or this current year that we're in. Now, to give you an idea about York County funding, that money is generated from unincorporated areas. The emphasis from York County Council is for us to push as much of our business, as much as of our tourism to the unincorporated areas as possible, because they want to, of course, create more traffic in the unincorporated areas, which creates more hospitality tax
We'll
funding.
give them all the traffic.
More
they want,
accommodations
honey,
tax.
I assure you.
Then I
we
have
will.
some municipalities who don't want any tourism at all because they like things the way they are. But with the emphasis on the unincorporated areas, we are coming to all the municipalities requesting funding. We're doing that for Tigakay, Fort Mill, York, and Clover. So we are going and requesting funding from all those municipalities, because right now what's happening is funding from York County that's coming from unincorporated areas is being taken and used to promote York, the municipality of York, the municipality of Clover, the municipality of Tigakay.
Billy, can I ask a
Yes.
question? I think it's important to note that, you know, the unincorporated area of Fort Mill is actually larger than the incorporated area. And where does that funding in the blue come from? I know it comes from the county, but where does it come from to get to the county?
All hospitality tax funding and accommodations tax funding in unincorporated
Is it
areas.
it's only in unincorporated
Only in
areas?
unincorporated areas.
So it doesn't come from any funding from any taxes
No.
or tourism in any municipal
No.
area? I think that's important.
Oh, yeah, I think
when
it
you're
is, too.
talking about how they're shifting, I think it's very important to understand where it comes from.
Right, and it's, I've spoken to council twice over the last few months, you know, talking to them about the challenges of us pushing business to unincorporated areas in the hopes that those people will go to those restaurants and those hotels that are in unincorporated areas. Because if you look at unincorporated areas, west of Newport, there's 9 restaurants that are in unincorporated areas. Everything else is incorporated. The majority of their area is Carowinds Boulevard, Lake Wiley, and a little bit in Rock Hill. And that's pretty much it. So there's challenges for us in pushing business there, but we're doing the best we can. But that's what our funding looks like currently.
So for clarification, real quick, on your whole presentation that you've done, when you talk about Fort Mill, are we talking about just the township of the town of Fort Mill? Or Fort Mill, Tigakay, Baxter, all combined?
No,
Or
this
are we
is
back and
pretty
forth?
much Fort Mill, city limits of Fort Mill.
Okay.
Now, we're including Nation Ford in that because of.
It's in the
The
town.
high school's in the town?
Okay.
Okay,
And that area.
okay.
And I actually looked at the map today to try to verify that. So Nation Ford, Fort Mill High School, and that's for mainly sporting events.
Right.
But then we're also, we're not talking anything in Tigakay, nothing.
None in
on-
Baxter?
Nothing in Baxter, because the events that we're doing and everything is pretty much on this side of 77.
Okay,
Where all the schools are.
Yes.
okay.
And Billy,
Thank you.
I know when you talked to me prior, when we first met, just to share this with council too, you have direct access to the number of people staying in the hotels and all that.
Absolutely.
And can track that tied to your events. So it's real data tied to his events. He knows if they book out the hotels, for example, and things like that, so.
For every event that we bring or we're involved with, now there's a difference there. We bring a lot of events like FBU and, Rivals and Battle of the Rock and things like that, but there's also events that that we bring, that we're not responsible for bringing, but we help get them here. You know, we may pay for a facility, we may pay for, you know, a portion of their bid fee, but there's things that we provide that allows them to come here. So that's, and when we do that, we're tracking all of that. We're tracking where everybody stays. We're tracking how many nights they stay, what the rate is during that time. We're also, you know, tracking restaurants and everything else during that time period to try to see what the economic impact is, because that's a number that, you know, when we talk about $16.3 million of economic impact, that is true numbers of economic impact on money that was spent in York County last year, because we are tracking all
And
of
I'm curious,
that.
Billy, how do you work the situation where you're lining up activities for Nation Forward? Is it an event that they can raise money from?
Oh, absolutely. For instance, I'll give you an example, Battle at the Rock, the tournament that we're doing in November. We are spending, as an organization, $10,000 to bring that event here. Now, that money goes to Rent Nation Forward, which
So they
goes,
get rent for the facility.
which goes directly through the school district. So that's funding that the school district receives. We are also paying for all the operations of the tournament, plus we're paying travel for a few of the teams, because we talked about high-profile teams. To get high-profile teams, you got to pay them some money. You got to get them here. But the school is able to, we're giving them the concession stand, so they're able to do that. Plus, they're getting the fee for the rental of the, and I think actually the way that this is being worked out is that money that we're paying to the school district goes directly into the basketball program, because they are involved
So it's a fundraiser for the
in helping
basketball.
it. So it's a
Interesting.
fundraiser for them as well. So, for instance, this past year, Fort Mill in accommodations tax money gave us right at about $17,000. That $17,000 is poured right back into events and leisure travel, marketing, things to bring events and people to Fort Mill. You know, that money's not taken and trying to get people to come to Clover. You know, that's what the county money is being used for currently. We're hoping to change that. But money that comes from Fort Mill goes directly back into Fort Mill with everything that we do.
Thank you.
So what we're doing is Visit York County will be requesting a percentage of your hospitality tax funding. We're doing that with every municipality. That's part of our emphasis is we want every municipality to have an investment. Now, granted, Fort Mill already does have an investment through accommodations tax. But what we are finding out is that when we're talking about tourism and leisure travel in York County, two places lead the way, Rock Hill and Fort Mill. There's no doubt about it. It's easy to track, it's easy to verify. So, but we are looking for hospitality tax funding from every municipality. And we have met with Clover, York, and now Fort Mill and Rock Hill, and we've got Tigger K left. That's the only one that's left. But we will be requesting a percentage of your H-Tax funding, and that'll go to enhance the services that we're already providing through the A-Tax funding, for Visit York County to continue to serve as a partner with Fort Mill to provide additional marketing, promotion, events, and exposure to the city. So that's over and above what we're currently able to do. Now, in return for that H-Tax funding, here's what Visit York County will do. We will invest that funding back into Fort Mill to bring more events, more leisure travel, increase the marketing, increase the exposure, promote your events, your attractions, and your restaurants. We want to bring more events to Fort Mill. We've got 17 events coming this year, including 10 new events. We want to bring the Mobile Visitor Center to as many events in Fort Mill as we possibly can. I can tell you, we presented to York, the city of York, last Monday. very much similar presentation. But when I got to the bullet point about Mobile Visitor Center at events in York, 3 days later, I got an email from York requesting the Mobile Visitor Center to be at their July 4th festival that they're having. And I had to tell them that, you know, we would love to be there. I hope we have the Mobile Visitor Center by then. You may actually be the first one to use it, but that's what we're talking about. You know, we've got events that we're going to send it to, but we want you to ask us, you know, can the Mobile Visitor Center come here? Because it's going to be an amenity that you can use in your events. Now, another thing that we'll do, we'll continue to choreograph social media, which will increase marketing for Fort Mill, promoting special events, using Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our app push alerts. Right now, we reach about 35,000 people on social media through our push and our post. Tourism creates money. We talked about that. There's a circle of life when tourism supports economic development that turns back to supporting additional tourism. The more tourists we can bring to Fort Mill, the more hospitality and accommodations tax funding that you can generate that will assist you in meeting your recreational facility goals and objectives. So the more tourism that we're able to bring to Fort Mill, the more it helps you meet your facility goals in recreation. In conclusion, Fort Mill's partnership with Visit York County means more marketing for Fort Mill, more exposure, more events, more promotion, which equals more HTAX, more ATAX funding for Fort Mill, which enhances the quality of life offerings that makes Fort Mill unique. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So how would you request a mobile, or when you get it?
Basically, you just send us an email. We've got a master calendar that we're creating that will. It's going to be somewhere every weekend, and it'll still be available during the week as well. So if you've got a Thursday night movie festival or something like that, but it will be, you just send us an email and request it, and as long as it fits on the calendar, we'll be here.
And it's stocked it's stocked with the same brochures and information for every event regardless of location.
Yes, for every event.
So it's not tailored to the location
The
in which
main
you're sending
thing
it.
that we're going to push out of that, one is we want people to download our app, because our app is a tremendous tool because it's all geo-targeted. So if you're standing right here and you open our app, it'll tell you the restaurants that are in your vicinity and how far you are away from them. Same with attractions, same with lodging. So we're going to push the app. We're going to push our visitor's guide, which is kind of our encyclopedia of everything tourism related in York County. And we're going to push the tear-off maps and brochures. Brochures are a little harder because, one, it's hard for us to get enough brochures, but visitor guide, app, and tear-off maps are going to be, and the tear-off maps are specific to touting the restaurants and the attractions and the lodging.
Does it mention parking on them?
Yes, it does mention parking as well. And the tear-off maps are kind of a process because things change so often. So we end up doing tear-off maps for each municipality about 2 or 3 times a year.
I understand.
Just so
Boy, do I understand.
well, I'll give you a prime example. The one we have hanging in downtown Rock Hill, and it's been up there since I've been here, so five months. Over half of the restaurants that are currently in downtown Rock Hill aren't even on there,
map.
and the other half are not in business anymore. So it's an evolving process of trying to make sure that we keep our information current.
How about a calendar of events? Do you guys?
Yes, we have a calendar of event. That's on the app as well. It's on the website, and it's pretty comprehensive. Now, as comprehensive as a calendar can be, you're always going to miss something. But all of the major events in York County are.
But we could go in and grab the month of July and push it through our own Facebook page or
website.
Yeah,
you can you can pull everything because we update that pretty much every day depending on events. But that's available through the app and through the website as well.
Are you receiving information from Fort Mill with our activities and events? So I think
Oh,
we just had
absolutely.
a concert this past week. Okay.
Absolutely. Fort Mill's, I
Right.
can't say enough
Special.
about, can't say enough about Fort
We are
Mill.
special.
You know.
So you want a portion of our hospitality, are you talking a
Yeah,
percentage?
what percentage?
What we're asking every municipality for is 10% of your hospitality tax funding. And that's the same across the board for everybody.
Billy, let me ask you this, since we have both H-tax and A-tax, a lot of those municipalities don't have A-tax.
Yes, I was gonna ask the
So-
same
Like
question.
I knew,
We're
like I
double
said-
dipping.
Harold was gonna ask that question.
Like I said, I'm requesting
Okay.
10%.
But you'll be understanding.
And,
You'll
but,
understand if we
but
blend that, right?
everything is
collected
negotiable.
today.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, very good.
I certainly think we have many things in our future that are going to play nicely into this. And we do want to continue the relationship that we have. It has been a good one. I think we'll have to talk long and hard about what we provide through accommodations. And as you say, you know, we've just begun to add hotels to our
Well,
mix.
and your accommodations tax is gonna continue to go up. And the way we're set now, being your tourism promotion provider and getting that 30%, you know, we're trying to get there with York County to where we have a set percentage. Because we see that as when your funding goes up, you know, we see that as hopefully a direct correlation in some of the work we're doing. So we like that. And we definitely appreciate that you guys involved us in that accommodations tax. Because Rock Hill and Fort Mill are the only two municipalities that reach that threshold. You know, I know the other ones would like to, and maybe they will at some point in time, but it took Fort Mill a while to get
Took
there
us
too.
forever.
And some of those municipalities don't have any hotels
Right,
anyway, so
that's
they
right.
just don't have them.
That's
They don't
right.
have A-tax.
We're in the process of working on our budget for the coming year. We just did a capital projects workshop looking at the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of capital projects that we have. I get sports tourism. I've been an active participant in it for 10, 15 years, and I've probably contributed every dime that you said in Fort Mill among places everywhere. So one just this past weekend. So where would you say, if we were investing and you could pick where we would invest to help promote Fort Mill with activities where you have voids, where should we put it?
Now you're talking about facilities?
Facilities or more land for more, you talked about the leisure travel, sports tourism. We've got the Riverview Fields or Comporium Fields here. The school district has a lot
They
of
do.
fields and facilities
They do.
already. Where do you see voids that you're not able to fill with the facilities in York County?
One thing that we struggle with, basketball, we're pretty set because, every school's got multiple gyms. We got the new high school coming online here. We're very excited about that. Soccer is always a need, because I'll give you a prime example. When Manchester Meadows was built in Rock Hill, they've got 8 fields there. Most tournaments that you go after now need 16 right off the bat. So just in a short amount of time, Manchester Meadows is almost too small, because so we're having to do kind of scatter things around. And that's one thing, because, and those types of fields can be used for lacrosse, they can be used for Quidditch, really anything like that. Where we're struggling is from a convention and meetings perspective. And this really doesn't answer your question, but I think it's a good point.
You don't know what I do.
We are missing, now that the Baxter Hood Center is no longer a meeting facility,
Okay.
we struggle having enough meeting space for large events.
What do you consider large? How many people?
Anything above 10,000 square feet.
So 500.
Because right now,
2,000.
what's happening is we can host events for, seating 450 people. That's, and those are scattered around York County. There's only a few.
Just a
I
few.
was gonna say.
Is just a few, and that's,
can't.
Shore Club, that's squeezing in every possible amount of space. But something, the ballroom at Baxter Hood Center was a nice space. but not having that space now. So a hotel with a convention center or a large meeting space is the thing that we're missing right now, and that's around the county. Because when we talk to, and one thing that, you know, Rock Hill in York County, Rock Hill specifically in sports tourism, but York County as a whole, is a major player in tourism. I read a story today about Charleston is building new facilities to try to capture some of the sports market. And when they talked about who the pace setters are in South Carolina, York County and Myrtle Beach. You know, so Charleston sees themselves behind us when it comes to sports tourism. But
I agree.
meetings and facilities is where they're going to Charleston, they're going to Myrtle Beach, they're going to Charlotte, but we can get that business here, and that's great accommodations tax business. It's great leisure travel business. But when someone starts to talk about a ballroom or a convention, we can't talk to them because we don't have the space. Courtyard at Fort Mill is has our largest space as far as hotels go. And that's, you know, when you're talking about a convention, that's nothing.
Yes.
But that's a big part of the business that we're leaving on the table now. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's,
It answers
you know,
part of it, and I have a feeling that, you know, our staff or our committees here will probably reach out to you on some of the ideas that we're tossing around.
And that's what we're wanting to find out, you know, who the players are, who are the people that can make that happen, because when we're talking about major meeting space or larger hotels, you know, that's going to be a collaborative effort between us, between the city, depending on where it's at, you know, the county. But it's a need in this area for that large meeting space.
Okay, before you leave the podium, you got goat yoga on that Agra one? Huh? I saw it.
It's probably
I saw it.
it's probably on there. I haven't participated. You know, I heard Brown Simpson's a big goat yoga guy, but you know, I don't.
They want the four-legged goats.
I've known Brown my whole life, so I just had to throw that in there.
Who doesn't know Brown is the question.
Well, you know,
That's a good point.
he's kind of like Madonna. He goes just by the one name, Brown.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
We
much.
certainly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
Thank you very much. Great work. Okay, presentation number 2, May financial statements, Shante Bowler. Thank you, Shante, for joining us.
Yes, ma'am, thank you, and to you and members of councils, I'll be very quick. We are 8 months in, reporting on the month of May. Our target is 67%, and I'm happy to report that our revenues are tracking very well. In some cases, our revenue line items are exceeding our budget at this time. And also to let you know that our expenditures continue to be below or at the targeted threshold. I will also let you know that budget is in process, and we finished our initial rounds with the departments, so this process continues to be a good one, and we're on track so far, so we're just moving right along.
Excellent, excellent. Any questions for Shante? Shante, we want to extend a very warm thank you because we know you're doing quite a bit to get us ready for the budget cycle and all of the projects that we have ongoing. So thanks to you and your staff for all
Thank you so
the
much.
extra effort that you are going to.
Thank you.
Thank
Do we
you.
have an updated workshop date? Do we have an updated workshop date? I know the one that was presented originally was the weekend before school started.
We do not, but we will shortly.
Okay. Yeah. Virginia, if you'll make a note of that so we can get on the calendars, please.
I'm putting an asterisk. Okay. All right, old business items. Old business item number 1, second reading, an ordinance annexing the portion of York County tax map number, my favorite part of the evening, 738-0000-063, lying west of the Fort Mill Parkway right-of-way containing approximately .59 plus or minus acres, located on the Fort Mill Parkway. This is in Ward 4. Councilman Moody, it is in your ward. Staff recommends that we approve, and the Planning Commission recommends that we approve. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept old business item number 1.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions?
Any changes since our last meeting? Thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Unanimous, Ms. Virginia. Old business item number 2, second reading, an ordinance annexing York County tax map numbers 707-0000-009, 010, 011, containing approximately 2.37 plus or minus acres at 1849 through 1855 North Doby's Bridge Road. This also is in Ward number 4, Councilman Moody's ward. The staff recommends that we approve, and the Planning Commission recommends that we approve. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept old business item number 2.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions other than, I'll ask Lisa's question. Has anything changed since last time? Okay. Hearing no changes. Any questions? No questions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you very much. Old business item number 3, second reading, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the town of Fort Mill so as to repeal ordinance number 2005-05. Staff recommends that we approve. Planning Commission recommends that we approve. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept old business item number 3.
Okay.
Second.
And I have a second. Do we have any questions, and has anything changed since the last time? Hearing that, no questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you very much. Old business item number 4, second reading, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for the town of Fort Mill, Article 1 in general, Section 5A, establishment of districts, so as to add a new zoning district to be called TCP, Transportation Corridor Preservation Overlay, deep breath, district, and Article 2, requirements by districts, so as to add a new section to be called Section 2.8 TCP, Transportation Corridor Preservation Overlay District, to invoke the pending ordinance doctrine, to provide for a public hearing, and to provide for other matters relating thereto. The staff recommends that we approve. The Planning Commission recommends approval with modifications. We will hear those modifications as soon as I have a motion and a second.
I make a motion to accept old business item number 4.
Thank you,
Second.
Jamie. And a second. Could you please walk us through modifications?
Yes, Mayor. There were 2 modifications. One was adding some additional clarification on the project descriptions within the tables. For example, differentiating between US 21 business and bypass. And the second modification was striking one project that was not within the Fort Mill area that was included in the table. So those are the 2 modifications that were made.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Pettit? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you. New business items. New business item number 1, YMCA operations agreement. Do I have a motion to open this?
I make a motion to accept new business item number 1.
I have a motion to accept. I have a second. Council members, you were provided a copy of this agreement prior to our meeting to review. Do you have any questions in regards to the language in this agreement? For those of you in the audience, this item and the next item are related to lease agreements and operational agreements as we begin the process of migrating to ownership of the Leroy Springs complex on Highway 160. These are agreements. We anticipate changes as we move forward, as we would with any agreement, but this is the standard and basic language.
For approval of this, will this just be one reading only?
For the
Okay.
agreement.
Sir?
Yeah, for the agreement.
Okay, just making sure.
I know for me,
Yes.
just after personally on coming on the council, I think it's just a great thing we want to do. You know, I've always had heartburn over a 30-year water agreement, and I know we're talking about water and a YMCA agreement, but you know, just at 21 years, I would like just to open it up to see if anybody else had thoughts on a 21-year agreement.
Barry, it has
And why it's-
revisions in it, does it not? Reviews in it? Did I read that?
In which frame?
The Y.
It, let me answer Chris. The reason it's 21 years, it coincides with what the lease is with the pool operation for the school district. They were just
Okay,
echoing that.
okay, all right.
But we also had talk originally, I think, that the town may want to look at doing some of this operation once the YMCA goes in for 2 or 3, 5 years. How easy will it be for us to change if it's something we wanted to manage on our own?
You'd have to modify the agreement. So
You'd
you'll
have to
meet
strike
with them
agreement and then modify.
Right, you'd have to meet with them and work out the terms, but, you know,
And we still maintain, as the agreement states, that we will run and operate the programs that we
That's right.
have had.
they won't run
And-
any sports programs out of
And
there.
that we will continue to have.
Exclusive use of the tennis courts, things like that. Office space, storage space, et cetera.
My biggest concern is probably that we have had a little bit of heartburn here and there with different agreements we've had with other entities. Not necessarily something that can't be overcome. It's similar to what Brown and I've talked about before with running the registration program and how long we're in that and the agreements we have. So somewhat to Chris's point, 21 years seems like a long time. And for it to require an overhaul of the whole thing, if we've got 1 or 2 pieces that just aren't working the best for us, how we can accommodate that in a timely manner.
So Dennis, for 21 years, say this again, that was to coincide with the pool?
The
Lease.
lease agreement that they're working out with the school district too.
All right, so the school
And
district's
that's their
agreement is
request. I
21
mean,
years.
if you want to make it 10 years, you know, I think you can do that, but they wanted it to mirror their other agreement.
How long
Okay.
was our agreement at the complex that we are currently in with Leroy Springs? 2020. But what
When did it
length of
start?
time?
10 years, Mayor.
So it was a 10-year window.
There we go.
Okay. So perhaps, given that in 10 years, things have changed dramatically for us, I don't know how the Y will perceive a 10-year as opposed to a 21-year, but perhaps we need to,
I mean, if you want to approve it with that modification, I'll certainly be happy to call them tomorrow and talk to them.
Other opinions?
It's up to you.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, what we're doing right now is exactly what Lisa's talking about. Things have changed and we're modifying agreements that are in place now.
Right.
That's what you're gonna be doing in 10 years or 15 years or whatever.
So if we approve this at 21, Barry, could we go in 10 and make modifications at any time?
Mutual agreement.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, I can live with that.
and I think too from.
I
their-
think this is a good agreement. It's a good thing for our town.
Well, it's an interesting agreement because we're all entering into an agreement with a number of parties that none of us have experienced this many people in one agreement. And their board on the Y, they have to agree to go into this knowing that they're not going to own the property. That isn't how
And
it
they've
usually
agreed
is.
on their end to the terms you have today.
Yes.
Okay.
So it can be amended, it can be revised. We just needed, because of the June 1 date in which they were to begin
Right.
operating, we had to have a signed agreement that
And-
was as basic as possible.
This goes back to my, concern of, I think it was after I learned before I got on council that, we were locked into a 30-year agreement with Rock Hill, and then I think there was a telecom company that wanted a 20-year agreement to run cable under 21 Bridge. We changed that to 5, and and I saw that number, but I'm fine. I'm fine with moving forward if everyone else is.
I'm open to council's will.
If it can be renegotiated any time,
I think so
I
too.
think I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not fine, I can see it on your face.
We have a significant change coming to the town in the next less than 30 days. And with Dennis's departure, I have a concern as in a new CEO coming into the organization, being committed to a 10-year, 21-year agreement without being familiar with it. So I don't know that, and Barry, maybe this is where we lean on you, once that new town manager comes in, if that person has heartburn with some of this or sees some concern, I don't want them to feel like their hands are tied.
Well, they are. if they would not, they would need to come back to us
Yeah.
to talk to us about that. No offense.
No,
But,
no,
you
not
know,
at
being
all.
the
Just
CEO doesn't
different
allow
opinions.
freedom of making
Right.
decisions to reorient contracts
Agree.
that this council has ratified.
Right.
So I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, but I don't know that it's an issue for today.
Okay.
That's just me. You certainly have all rights to have that concern. You should. And so what's the will of council?
Move to approve.
With the modification?
Live with that? Or do you want to propose a motion with modification?
Well, you don't have
James
to-
did.
The original motion.
I made the original motion to accept.
Okay.
I don't think
You
you had a
made it.
second on any of them, though.
Somebody seconded it.
Yeah.
It's a circus.
Oh, sure you did, that's right.
Rudy second Jamie's.
Why don't you vote on Jamie's motion?
All right, and your motion was to accept.
Accept.
As is?
As is.
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay. Now, we can do the same thing for new business item number 2, Leroy Springs Complex Lease Agreement. And for those of you in the audience, this is the other party, and we still have yet another party that will be involved in the operation of this recreation facility and aquatic center for the town. It will only get more complicated as we go. So, council, you've had the agreement in your notes since late last week. What are your, do I have a motion? Do I have discussion? Gotta have a motion before we can have
I
discussion.
make a motion to accept.
I have a motion to accept
Second.
and a second. Questions, comments?
And this lease agreement is to carry us through until the full property is deeded to the town. This is not an extension of the original lease that we had.
That is correct.
It is actually an extension.
It is.
But I,
Yeah, but-
right, but it's
yeah.
not
But
taking
not
us.
past 2020.
No. We don't lose the ball fields any earlier
Yeah.
than we were
Correct.
getting.
But the primary intent is just to buy a little bit extra time, I don't think much more than 30 or 60 days to get
Yes,
the
sir.
deeds done. And also in your motion, Jamie, if you would revise the motion to accept and ratify the execution of this lease agreement.
Make a motion to accept and ratify new business item number 2 with the lease agreement between Leroy Springs Complex and the town.
Okay,
Second.
and I have a second. Any further discussion?
Barry, any significant difference in the two other than the original and that's just extending the time? Okay, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you very much. New business item number 4, adoption of the Town of Fort Mill Operations Plan, Chipper Wilkerson. Do I have a motion? Oh, did I
Number
skip
3.
one?
Yeah,
Number 3.
I'm sorry. It's yours. I'm sorry. New business item number 3, approval of event and resolution for Steve Tolson. And this would be with Brown Simpson. Do I have a motion? I'm sorry.
Make a motion to accept.
Got a motion to
New business
accept,
item number 3.
Second.
and I got a second. Welcome.
Hello. Mayor, members of council, I'm come on behalf, I'm filling in for Caroline tonight, but this is all about the summer block party. 2 dates, I think you're familiar with these, that are being recommended, July the 14th and August 11th. These will be on Main Street in downtown Fort Mill, and this is going to be a collaborative effort between Mr. Tolson, Steve Tolson, who is here tonight, Amor Artis, and Jason Cloud of Hobos. This will be an event. I'm going to give you some times here. Street closures on Main would be from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. The actual event would be from 1:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And what we're requesting tonight is permission for alcohol sales from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. There will be some bands that will be playing from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Then there will be about an hour break, and then from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Brian, those numbers you gave us
Are
aren't reflected
different,
in here.
yeah.
We have from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yes, sir. That's 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. will actually be the alcohol sales, along with other vendors out on Main Street. We'll have some food trucks, some other vendors, water, things like that also too during that time period. Also too out on Main Street. One of the things that Mr. Tolson and Mr. Cloud are supporting with this is a charity, the 809 Foundation. I think y'all are familiar with that. And some of the proceeds from this after expenses will go to that foundation. One of the things that when we met as staff, met with Mr. Tolson, was that we would require our Fort Mill Police as security during this event. They will be paying for our police officers. That was part of the agreement. They would do that. Also, too, we've requested to them, and they have agreed to pay for some public works employees also to work this event. That's what we asked them to do.
Brown, real quick, for our audience that may not know what the 809 Foundation is, can you speak to that?
As best I can. Detective Mike Doty, y'all know, who passed away back in, I think it was January. This is the foundation. That was his badge number, 809. So some of the proceeds would go toward what that foundation is all about. I think that's a great cause. So that's what they're requesting tonight. I asked Mr. Tolson to come in case that you would have any questions for him. When we met with him, Caroline and I did, along with our event staff, he had agreed to do everything that we asked him to do. So we're recommending that we give this summer block party a go and see how it goes. July the 14th will be the first date, and August the 11th will be the other date. So
I do have a question. Steve, you've shouldered the huge responsibility of getting some organization to this, but it did roll out as 2 dates to the Merchants Association. And I see that you and Jason are doing the majority, the lifting, but will the other merchants be participating as well?
Yes, the plan is to have a meeting this week once the assumed
get the
approval
yeah.
goes through, to determine just to what extent the other merchants in downtown. The idea is to support in as much as we can downtown Fort Mill for this event, and then if we need to look outside of downtown, pull in some vendors and merchants from outside of downtown as well. Obviously things like food trucks and that's not all readily available in downtown,
sure.
So those are coming from elsewhere, but yeah, for the most part, we're focusing on a downtown Fort Mill event.
Yeah, I just think there are many people here that were not a party to those previous discussions, and the effort is to provide more of a walkable environment by closing off the street and allow pedestrians to go to each of the businesses. And Steve has taken the lead. And I think, Jamie, you were at one of the meetings when we actually offered the 2 dates. So we're piloting to see how we can make the most of combined efforts.
Yeah, and the second event is actually, so the 809 Foundation approached me asking if they could host some sort of cornhole tournament, like the bags game. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to host it as close as possible to August 9th, being 809. So oddly enough, when we had met, I had originally proposed the 18th in August, which is the last Saturday before school starts, but also the Saturday after the first Friday of football. So it was a recommendation from the town that we try to move it to the 11th.
Yeah.
When they approached me, I was like, wow, look at this. We can run it on the 11th, which is the closest Saturday to the 9th. So it was a perfect little match. So the first event, there's just going to be a small little dunk tank that'll be charity. We've got some stuff in place for water to be donated to the event, and the foundation to sell the waters at the event to raise all the money for the foundation. And then the second event, we'll host a charity cornhole tournament for the foundation.
Where will that be held?
That is going to be held in the parking lot adjacent to the police station right here.
Did we agree to that?
Yeah, we were okay with that.
I'm just asking.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not
Yes,
opposing.
Right.
I'm just trying to get my arms around it. Yeah.
Again, the approval
that's
was
fine.
Granted based just assuming that we discussed with the local businesses there and that they're okay with it. So I've discussed with some of the local businesses there already, and they'd be okay with it. Obviously, the street's going to be blocked down that day anyway, so the parking lot's largely useless at that point, other than to host some sort of event.
This had nothing to do with whether it would be right or not. It's simply I want to get clarity and fullness to everything that we agree to. That's it. That's all it is. So that's part of the plan that you and Caroline met with, and we're all good. Is that correct?
We are.
So will it just be downtown businesses only?
Sorry, Trudy. No, it's okay.
Steve answered that. Downtown business is only on this.
Other than the food trucks.
Well, it's a limited space, so like we have tentative plans for 8 to 12 vendor spaces, because what the town has requested is that the main street still be open so that you can get in with.
If we need an emergency vehicle down through there, he was going to use the vendor spots as some of the parking spots that we have now on Main Street. But
Okay.
our public safety guys requested that we leave that, you know, we were able to get down and get a fire
Right.
truck or whatever else down that we
Yeah,
have to
okay.
We still have to have
during that
access.
event.
So we want to keep the right of way open so that the vendors can open, the downtown merchants can open their businesses. So we have to operate in terms of vendors and food trucks and whatever else, the beer sales, obviously, within the confines of the parking spaces on Main Street. So it's gonna be slightly limited in terms of how many vendors we're capable of hosting. So we're gonna focus on downtown first and then branch out from there.
Yeah.
Well,
We have quite a
when
few
they do
lined
theirs,
up.
they limit to it's a 10 by 10 tent. So you need to be able to fit inside of a 10 by 10 slot, which is plenty of room for our middle.
It's very similar to what we do for Halloween too, is it not,
Yes,
Brian?
it is.
Yeah.
Fall Festival, Main, that's
And
right.
that's what Caroline discussed when we met
Yeah.
as well.
Trudy, you've tried twice. You want to try again?
I think they've already answered all my questions that I had. So that's fine.
Dennis, do we have approval or have we approached South Carolina DOT yet about closing the road for that long?
I mean, the letters, I don't know if they've written them yet, but they will approve. We have to send them a letter to close the road.
Okay, because
Yeah.
this seems like a
Generally do that
really
after
long
you've
time
approved
compared.
They get hand delivered. Brown usually
Yeah, I've hand
takes them.
delivered a couple of times for Carolina. I think we've already hand delivered those down to SCD too. I'll make sure that we have those done. But we have, it's a process that we do.
Right.
Chief Helms has to sign off on it. Dennis had to sign off on it. So yes,
The
we have to
only-
get their permission first.
Yeah, and the thing I've heard is we have a period of time that we need to have
Right.
it ahead of.
Yes.
So that they can approve.
Right.
I signed a document at the last merchant meeting as well, somehow confirming the road closure. I was
She may-
hosting the event or
Yeah,
something.
okay.
Caroline-
I'll check with her on that, Mayor.
Okay, that would be good.
Okay.
Any further questions?
And then, you know, I guess just the push of the downtown merchants to have them open after hours, because if we're gonna be pushing this till 9 o'clock at night, you know, it gets pretty packed down in this half with Hobo's Local Dish, yourself. You know, we've got Southern Sugar, so we've got a couple, but we wanna be able to have that walkability all up Main Street with the other vendors and other stores up there and so forth. I mean, I guess it's hard for the barber shop to stay up until 9 o'clock, but Wormy
bet
could tell
people
some
would go.
stories until that late. I mean, Wormy's got some stories.
Yes, people would go.
Well, just when they had, when we had our Main Street walk, they had
Mm-hmm.
people that were up there shag dancing and whatnot.
Yeah,
He
that was
allowed
awesome.
them to go in the front of his barber shop, and that was really neat.
Yeah, I
And then
think,
Mud Puddles opened up, and they had kids in there doing projects, and they had a resident, I think they have a resident artist.
right, they
Had a
do.
bunch of their material out, so it was neat. It was a good time. And then you'd be a fool not to take advantage of the world's hottest pepper. I mean, I know he'd love to get into the mix.
Even Aesthetic Addiction had cheese and
Aesthetic
wine.
addiction, that
You know,
was
so I
very
think it's an
elevated.
opportunity, you know, for every merchant to be able to participate.
Main and Gray. a lot
Main
of
and Gray
guys
is never
walking
open
around.
enough, because every time I want to go, they're not open.
Even the whatchamacallit people had their thing over, you can go and walk and see how the stage was put together.
Oh, the
community
theater.
The theater,
playhouse.
the
Yeah.
community playhouse, I can
Yeah,
never remember
that'd
that,
be
community
awesome.
playhouse.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, just let me say this.
Big improv.
When we met Mr. Tolson, and we sat down, you know, we expressed our concerns, and he's been in agreement to everything that we've asked him to do, so.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Jamie and I just brainstormed real quick. It'd be really cool if the theater had improv night or something, you know, or karaoke going on for the kids or something to kind of bring people in there. Just so, a lot of people don't even realize the Playhouse is right there,
Right.
so.
That's a good point.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all the effort. Any
Yeah.
further questions for Mr. Tolson or for Brown? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this new business item, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. We look forward to it.
Thank you very much.
New business item number 4, adoption of the Town of Fort Mill Operations Plan. Chipper Wilkerson, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept new business item number 4. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Chipper, 171 pages.
Bring you a chair, buddy.
I know we have a motion to approve, and we have a second. And I know that the effort has been gargantuan to get this done. You've done a fabulous job. I still have a lot of notes, and I think it would be taxing to the world if we went over all of the notes tonight. But I do think approving, and council, you all have your own opinions, but I do know I went through all 171 pages. I even had a typo on page 96. So.
I found a few as well, going back again and again. So
I got to 121 with
with
a
its typo. Yeah, I gave up on typos. But I do not think it would be prudent for us to go over all of our comments. How would you like for us to give them to you?
Can I give you a little bit about it? The intent of this document. We've operated under the York County Plan historically. Mr. Pieper asked me to begin putting this together, and you guys as well. So the proposed plan gives us a little more formal role day to day with emergency management, absolutely. This is not a end-all be-all plan. It is the basic framework to then take us other places. That's what this document is. Okay. So it's not going to tell you exactly how to handle something. It's going to tell you the main framework on how to get there, and then we depend on the fire department, the police department, Davey and his crews to follow their internal procedures to step into place to execute pieces of the plan. That's the short version of the intent of this document.
And you did a fine job of that. For those that are watching, as I thought one of the more salient pieces in the entire document was first responders are the first to get there and the last to leave. Well, the first responders are people that work with us. They're our employees here in town. So I think having a plan that addresses the actions needed and the support needed and the infrastructure needed was needed. So we've been talking about this for some time, and Chipper has really taken on a huge task here. It isn't to supersede anything that happens with the county's plan or the state's plan, but it is to make sure that we're readily available and conversant in what we need to do before anyone else gets involved, because we're the first on the scene. The train derailment was a perfect example of how to see how things are working. I'm hopeful that we will do some tabletops and some scenarios to test the plan and see how that goes, and to use the train derailment as an opportunity to ferret through where we have areas that need to be beefed up.
A part of this is getting the majority, or really the vast majority of the town, on the same page, the right language. Where do you fit in to the bigger puzzle to make an event happen? So the training piece has to come, and the county does their plans and their exercises, but we will as well down the road. It's just one step at a time.
Well, I'm thrilled to see it on paper, and really appreciate the effort. Council?
So we'll email any questions. Is that right?
Yeah, you want an email? Do you want
comments? I would email them. I think that's the best way, and then Chipper can incorporate them.
I can bring all of that
and then we
back
can do another
and revise
review.
it.
Yeah, I think that's. Does that work for you?
Absolutely.
Mayor, you might want to approve it now if you want. That's up to y'all.
Absolutely.
And then certainly you can modify, and you can.
It's a living document. It should be
working document.
It should be modified every time we have an event and see a way to do it better every time.
My only fear with doing that right now, knowing that I've got 40 comments, Gwen, you probably have as many or more.
8 pages.
Is that your section where you're keeping up with changes?
Oh, it'll be nice.
Really shouldn't have all of this on that.
I'm good with holding.
So, I'm hesitant in even approving at this point until we at least get the initial questions and, typos, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, I will be
cleared
happy
out.
for help with finding typos, because once you've read it,
You're blind to it. I
losing
agree.
it.
Yes, that's why my mama reads everything.
Absolutely.
So,
but I'm hesitant not to approve it because right now we don't have anything. I mean, we
I know, I'd like
have
to see
individual
the
departments.
And we're still operating under the county's plan.
Yeah.
So there is something there. It's
Absolutely.
just,
It's in mine.
this is a little more specific to us.
To Fort Mill.
This is not taking anything away from there, and that was a good point. It is going to help better define our cooperation together.
I would think they would be happy that we would have something in place that they will know what we're doing.
Yes.
As they are activating. It's really important to have everything documented. So I do think Lisa's right. We're in need of call trees and processes by which we would share information and PIO training, and there's a horde of things on my 8 or 9 pages that we will have to supplement into the agreement. But it is the framework, and it is in the right order. There's some criteria that I want to talk to you about to reorder some of the criteria, but I think we're good.
Maybe we can set up a workshop like we had earlier today, just to meet with Chipper.
Oh, let's do a different
We don't want
kind.
one like that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's choose a different path, would you?
A red line document.
I have a question I'd like to ask Chipper.
Sure.
In here, several places you refer to the Department of Social Services. Whose Department of Social Services?
That is anything coming from Department of Social Services we don't have the ability to handle.
I know, but whose Department of Social Services?
She's asking where is it?
That is housed at the county.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
And we just follow suit right into the county plan for those pieces and just mimic that. And we do not have the capacity for that, just like the county really doesn't, and it just falls to the proper state agency.
Okay, thank you.
Chipper, have all the departments been involved with this process along the way? Have
No,
they
ma'am.
got their input? Okay, so this is just your initial draft at doing it?
This is a pretty cut and dry, if that makes sense, emergency operations plan that if you pulled up FEMA's Comprehensive Planning Guide 101, this mimics that thought process. These are the things that the fire department does. These are the things that a police department does. These are the things that public works, typically do. As everybody begins to look at this, I'm sure the departmental SOPs will drive direction more than this. This is the 30,000-foot level.
Right.
And then we'll begin diving down a little deeper.
Okay, I just want to be sure, kind of to Gwen's point, that the flow that is in there now actually works with their flow, that we're not missing a piece. So, one of the questions I had is we talk about evacuation routes, but there's no reference to an evacuation route or where to find it or what it is or who's going to put it together.
We'll look to the police department.
We will never develop those or manage those. We will only support the ones that are in place.
Right.
And
In
we'll-
place by who?
and
The state and the county. We don't do that. Okay.
And we'll look right to the police department to do that function of what their normal day-to-day job is to execute that part of the plan.
That's a good question.
So to me, if that's what's happening, it would need to reference, this isn't something we're doing, not in those words, but that it would reference, the evacuation plan follows the guidelines set by the state or follows the evacuation given by the state, however you word it. I was looking for the document. With it being in there, I'm flipping through. Where's the evacuation plan? Hadn't seen one yet. I don't know which roads to go on.
You're supposed
If traffic's a mess, where do I go?
You're supposed to get one every year, but it can be altered based on the event. So you're not going to get a documented every time you're going to turn right. It's going to be based on the event and the need. So it will be entirely different every time, but I think we can make it easier.
Make it a reference to somewhere where we could go to find
Depends on
it.
the hazard.
Yeah, it
Yes.
depends on the hazard.
And the wind-
Yes. And the wind direction.
Yeah, all kinds of variables.
Yeah, I think just knowing where to go, I mean,
You will tune into your local radio station.
You'll get an Amber Alert on your iPhone.
And they'll tell you.
Yes.
You will get all kinds of
just don't make me
communications.
go to
Yes.
Facebook,
Yeah.
please.
You
You'll be
won't.
bombarded with.
You won't
communications.
depend on that.
Yeah,
But I
I
do
doubt
think
that.
it's an excellent start. We have, these plans evolve and require hours and hours and hours and people and resource to do. This is an excellent start.
It's a start.
It is an
That very
excellent
true.
start.
So can we approve with these modifications made? The input we have. Again, my concern is that your change document ends up being another 10 pages
I would-
before we even get started.
I would prefer to take your comments, let's talk about those, make sure everybody's on the same page, and bring back a good start
Okay,
to then go forward with.
so table this to the next meeting.
Well,
No, we don't
however,
table anything.
No, sorry. Forget it. That's the
Defer, I think is
Yes,
the right.
defer.
Do you prefer to defer?
That's,
Say that 3 times. Do you
That-
prefer for us to go ahead and approve the structure, knowing that there are modifications that are going to take place repeatedly? Or do we defer? I'm worried there's not going to be a time that it's finished.
oh, it will never be finished.
It's
but I'm-
never going to be
no.
finished.
But I'm hearing long lists of things, and I'm like Ms. McCarley, do we want to have those
I'm
already
asking
sitting
you
in the?
because this is taxing to you.
I would prefer to defer.
Can you make a motion?
I make a motion that we defer new business item number 4 to our next council meeting.
A second.
Second.
Well, you got a motion on the floor already.
Yeah, so we've got to have,
You got to vote on that one first.
okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve
accept, yeah.
and accept the emergency plan as written. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Now we vote on the second motion. The second motion is to approve, to defer and work towards approval with modifications. All those in favor, please
Well,
say aye.
in her motion, she said the next meeting. I don't think we want the next meeting. We maybe want the next meeting in July. I mean, we may have
Please.
a meeting.
Yeah, just say your next regular meeting.
Next
Next
regularly
regular
scheduled meeting.
I know, we meet a lot now.
I make a motion that we defer new business item number 4 until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
All right. Thank you again, very much. Information discussion, I'm discussed out, I'm over this. Discussion of Fort Mill WPCP 4.5 MGD expansion, EIEIO, SRF number 336-09 project with Hazen and Sawyer, Greg Rushing. Hi.
Good evening. How's everybody?
We're great.
Good. I appreciate the opportunity. As you know, we've got the treatment plant project on schedule, and we have to go through this short presentation. We have to include 4 items in order to check off a box on the SRF application.
All right.
So what you're seeing, do we have it up? Yeah.
Hop to it.
On agenda, 1 through 4.
Number 1.
Need for the project. 2 is alternatives evaluated. 3, rationale for the selected alternative. And the environmental and financial impacts of expansion. Need for project. This is a very detailed PowerPoint here. Need for project based on the rapid population growth in Fort Mill. And actually more important for me, the projected wastewater flow is anticipated to be above 3 million gallons per day. If you're wondering what MGD is, within the next 20 years, actually I think it's about 10. So that's a general statement. Don't get too specific there. Next page, need for the project, aging critical infrastructure at the treatment facility. We've done a lot in the first phase of the project just to get us back where we should have been 10 years ago.
Everybody hear that? It's growth, but they are very critical items as to the need of this expansion that are aside from that. These are things where we're trying to get ourselves up to the current.
And that's your next 2
Yes.
points, exactly. The more stringent water quality requirements coming from DHEC, most through the EPA directives themselves, but DHEC has their own. And specifically the phosphorus removal based on speculative MPDES requirements. We predict they'll get lower, but that's going to be an evaluation that's going on right now with a very stringent testing program we have going with the other stakeholders in the region. Next, alternatives. Obviously the no action. You end up with tanks overflowing basically and declining water quality, even if you could treat it. Land application, I'm not sure if any around here have been done. Mostly these are on equine and bovine farms where they have space to just purely land apply the sludge. Obviously around the plant, that's a 100-year floodplain, and obviously land is pretty cheap around here anyway anymore.
Little bit of humor
Jokester,
there,
are you?
I see that.
Water reuse, 360 acres for a reclaimed water system. Land and infrastructure is cost prohibitive and no significant industrial dischargers available for potential reuse. In other words, we get it almost to drinking water standards and then we bury a completely new infrastructure system of, it's actually purple pipe, to ship it to an industrial user or to discharge irrigation onto golf courses. That's very cost prohibitive once we get down to the actual piping in the ground. More alternatives. Use of surface water discharge locations. And I can't believe personally myself, they actually evaluated relocating our outfall to the Broad River. But that's something we have to consider as an alternative. And it being at least 30 miles away, obviously cost prohibitive there as well. Regionalization, in other words, connecting our outflows to Manchester treatment facility in Rock Hill. They would probably love that. It would take time for them to build their infrastructure up, and we would lose the investment we've already had in our existing plant. Let's see, expansion of the Fort Mill plant with increased MPDS discharge to the Catawba River. This leverages existing infrastructure, minimizes environmental impacts, and most cost effective. That is actually what we're doing. That is the selected alternative. And now based on the rationale, we have to move now if we're going to stay within our permitted limits to meet the wastewater capacity requirements for the growth that we have anticipated. We already have a forwarding agreement from DHEC for more capacity than we should be giving out, but they do that when they know we have a project on board. Least impact to the environment, it is contained on the site, and a small half of one of the tanks is going to be on some donated property. So we basically everything's going to be on site at the existing treatment plant. Takes advantage of what we've already done thus far, which is very limited but still very costly. Meets the town's goals for water quality on the proposed stringent effluent requirements. Again, nitrogen and phosphorus are things we look out for, but those are mainly what DHEC are looking for in their new requirements for the Catawba River. It is the most cost-effective and allows for a very easy expansion from the 4.5 we have for this project to 6 MGD. Just basically installing some more fixtures, not building any more tanks. There you have the existing site, and I know you've seen these pictures before, and the proposed site on the next one. We've actually considered taking out the 2 little clarification tanks. We discussed that last week. Give us some little extra space for equipment storage.
Awesome.
And that's changed a very minor bit that you won't be able to tell when it's constructed. But that is the proposed. If you'd like details on that, the headworks, top right, the biological treatment are the long tanks, and then the membranes are at the very end of that structure. The solids handling building, dead center up front, is already constructed with space for another belt press. So we can handle everything within that building. We already have 1 belt press. We'll just have to buy 1 more when we go to 6. Environmental and financial impacts of expansion. Short-term, potential increased impact during construction. That's mostly land disturbance and be out when construction's done. Long-term, you've got a very high-quality effluent. Even what we're putting, discharging to the river now is better than, by factors of 10, better than what the river exists. But this is very close to drinking water standards. I think there's only 2 more processes to get us to drinking water standards on this new plant. The membranes are extremely efficient at treating. And energy efficient treatment systems. We have a SCADA, which is supervisory control and data acquisition, continuously running the membrane plant, making it as efficient as it can possibly be, down to turning on air, turning off air, pumps, anything you can name. It's turned to the most efficient setting as possible. Financial impacts, there's no financial impacts. You don't have to worry about it. But seriously, most cost-effective alternative, everything's on site. The investment by the town is required to not limit growth in the town. Certainly, if we could not expand the treatment capacity, we would be under a moratorium dictated by DHEC. Majority of the project funded will go through a low-interest loan by the state of South Carolina. I'm sure y'all have heard the amount on that by now, but it doesn't hurt to say that.
Say it again.
You know, I'm going to say it. They're funding $35 million of the 42, which is outstanding.
Made number one on the list for the whole state.
That's awesome.
And the cost of doing nothing is much greater without stating that.
Greg,
Yes,
who
ma'am.
did you say is doing that, the 35
Rural
million?
infrastructure, South Carolina rural infrastructure.
State revolving fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's right, that's all right, I'm sorry. Yeah. Got the water tank project.
Yeah, you got the water tank messed up.
Yeah,
We're
that's all
getting
right.
some help from rural infrastructure on the water tank.
So with a $42 million price tag that we were looking at, and they hooked us up with $35 million, that leaves the town on the hook for $7 million.
Isn't that incredible?
That is incredible.
That is
Good job,
excellent
you
work.
guys.
That reduced
Now, for clarification, if anybody's wondering, that's not a grant. That's
Yeah,
still a
that's a
loan,
loan.
Right.
but it's
Set up to a
extremely
low rate.
low interest.
That you couldn't get anywhere else.
It's incredible.
And if you don't have any questions, that's the presentation. As long as I get that in the minutes, we're good on SRF checking off that box.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Would you really drink the water after it came through that?
They do in Arizona.
Would you drink to that?
After a UV and an RO filter, yes, I would.
All right, I'll take you up on that.
Out in
Once we're
Arizona,
done with
You
the
got those
construction
handy, do
where
you?
They can maintain, otherwise they wouldn't have.
He'll
enough
resign before that. Sorry.
I ain't drinking it.
Singapore actually recycles all of their storm and sewer water for drinking purposes.
Who does, Greg?
Singapore.
Well, I'm not going to Singapore.
Not this week.
I was just telling Brown, Tampa Bay pulls in seawater and treats it for drinking water.
We
It
had
can
that
be
down in
done.
Florida, Desalination.
It is expensive, but it can be done.
Thank you. This is an incredible project. One of the largest that we don't talk about a lot, but one of the largest projects that we address and that we're moving forward on. And very, very pleased with the hard work on that. Thank you. Okay, with that, we have managed to wind our way all the way through tonight's agenda. There's no executive session item. It's thundering outside. So we'll start with you, Larry, if you'd like to do a quick comment before we adjourn.
No other than, on this day in 1777, Captain Cook discovered the Great Barrier Reef by running into it.
Interesting.
Jamie?
Just a great job by staff as always. Really appreciate everything that you guys do.
Lisa?
Just returned back from Washington DC, so I encourage everyone, if you are going to DC, reach out to our representatives there. I reached out to Ralph Norman's group, and they were able to not only get me a tour of the Capitol facility, but also passes to go in the White House. And so it was pretty neat to be standing there in the same house that Trump was, and we actually missed him by just a couple of hours. And so no matter which president you wanted, you vote for, any of that, it's still, he's a powerful person, and you're standing in his home, and he opens it up to you. It's pretty moving to go in and see. So just wanted to let everybody remind you of that opportunity. And then, Dennis, this is our last meeting.
Got that on my list.
So thank you. Thank you for all you've done for the town so far, and we wish you the best of everything in your new endeavors.
I had the same thing on my list. Wanted to thank Mr. Pieper for his service. Wish him the very best as the scumbag gets to live at the coast. He'll be smelling ocean breezes and sand between his toes.
Could be like Joe and watching it snow at the beach.
What do we do to
know.
get people to move to the beach?
Exactly.
But thank you for your service, and we wish you all the best. Would also like to recognize that we were very fortunate as a town to have skilled and dedicated employees to look to in the interim until we are able to get through a very comprehensive process, selection process for our next leader. We will proceed quickly but purposefully, and in that interim, we're very fortunate that Davy Broom, one of our fine employees, will be filling in the interim, and we're very fortunate to have that in our town. Thanks to Davy and all of our direct reports for doing the work and not missing a beat. We're just very pleased. I'd also like to say thanks to Brown for filling in and doing the work for the band that we had down at the area off of Main last Friday night. I understand it was a great event, a lot of attendance. Finally see some usage out of that parking lot. Good thing. Thank you so much for that and the work on the upcoming events for Main. Want to say congratulations to all those that have graduates. I know that over the course of the last several weekends, we've seen college and high school graduations, and we all ought to be really proud of the graduates that come from Fort Mill, and I hope they all come back and get a job here and are productive, tax-paying citizens. Happy Mother's Day in the behind and in the rearview mirror, and happy Father's Day. Looking forward to all of the fathers here, and thanks for council's patience as we work through some challenging but interesting times. Ronnie?
Miss you.
He hadn't left yet.
That's a lot worse than Ronnie.
Man of few words.
I became a great-grandparent again today.
Yes, he did.
So,
Awesome.
Congratulations.
and by the end of the year, I'll have 5.
Great grandkids.
Great grandkids.
Amazing. All right, Chris?
You're older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Started earlier.
Yeah, obviously.
Mr. Moody?
The Gamecocks are went away from Super Regional.
They're playing tonight, aren't they?
Tonight, yeah, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll beat Arkansas.
Look.
Dennis, thank you for everything you've done for the town. I think I can see a lot before I got here, and getting to work with you since I've been on board. It's been a pleasure, and good luck in your new adventure. And thank you for all you've done for us. I think we've got a lot of money to spend now, so so we'll see how we can do that in a fiscal way, responsible.
Absolutely. Trudy Bing?
Well, this morning at St. John's Methodist Church, we had started Vacation Bible School this week. And we had 180 young people registered for Vacation Bible School.
Wow.
And we had 177 to show up.
Goodness.
I haven't been around little folks in a good while, but it was...
Trudy's tired.
I sent her 3 of mine.
I saw Chris's 3. But, and I helped with registration this morning, and then I helped with, I guess you call dispensing the children in the afternoon to get back to their parents. And I was just really amazed and surprised, and I think excited myself to see those little smiling faces coming out and to see their mother. And I had such a good time, I want to go back tomorrow. I was just real excited about that. And that will continue all week. Of course, I'm not working all week, just a few days, because I can't handle all those children every day. And Dennis, again, like the other council members have said, best wishes on your new endeavor. And thank you for what you've done for Fort Mill. As far as graduation, I didn't have one to graduate this year. I had one last year, and he finished his first year at college. Should I say Clemson? I'll just say college. And I'll say, and when he came home, he for the end of the year, he had grown about 6 inches since he went.
Oh, wow.
He's now 6'2".
What happened to my son? First year of college.
And then our granddaughter, I have to say, turned 15 this year in April. And as soon as she turned 15, where she goes to gym, they told her, okay, you're now 15, so if you want a job this summer, you have a job here at the gym. So she's working at the gym. And Colton, the grandson, is back at the Y this year working again. So he enjoyed it so much, and they called him back. So that's all I have.
Awesome. We do live in a special place. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Don't everybody jump at once.
I'll make
Got a
that.
motion, I got a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. I'll hit you in the head. Let's go. Thank you.
All right.